Hi everyone. Today we're going to talk about the ICH Q3A guideline in detail. In previous session, we have seen the ICH Q3, which is like overview of the impurities. In that, we discussed the some introduction and some terminologies. But in this session, we'll be going to focus on the ICH Q3A specifically, which is regarding the impurities in new drug substances. So, if you know, ICH has ICHQ3 divided this ICHQ3 into the four main subtypes. ICHQ3A, new drug substance impurities. 3B is regarding the new drug products. Then we have Q3C regarding the residual solvent, and Q3D is regarding the elemental impurities. So we'll discuss the ICH Q3A, which provide the regulatory guidance on identification, qualification, and control of impurities which are present in a new drug substance, that is our APIs, and which are produced by the chemical synthesis. So obviously, this will be going to applicable to the our new drug substances which are produced by the chemical synthesis and organic impurities arising from the manufacturing process or degradation or raw material and intermediates. But this will does not apply to the drug product. Obviously, we have Q3B, so this won't be Q3A won't be applied to the drug products. It neither apply to the biologicals, peptides, oligopeptides, fermentation product, radiopharmaceuticals, or the inorganic impurities. Uh, this we could say the elemental impurities, because for elemental impurities we have Q3D, and for residual solvent we have Q3C. So types of impurities covered in Q3A mainly focus on the organic impurities like the process related impurities in starting material, byproduct, intermediates, reagent, ligand, and catalyst. In degradation impurities are also covered into the Q3A, which focus on form during the manufacturing or storage of API. So this is specifically for the API. We have to remember this. Second one, threshold limits. This is very important from the regulatory perspective. So APIs with maximum daily dose of less than equal to 2 grams per day has a threshold limit of a reporting threshold limit of greater than if the impurity is greater than or equal to 0.05%, then we have to report it. If the impurity is greater than or equal to 0.10% or the 1 mg per day, whichever is lower, if it is greater than 0.1%, then we have to identify that impurity. Like we have to characterize it, we have to identify its structure by HPLC, or we could use the by HPLC we could separate, and by IR or other techniques we have to identify it. Then qualification, if it is greater than 0.15% or 1 mg per day, whichever is lower, then in that case we also have to do these qualification studies, which simply means the toxicological studies to identify its safety or toxicity. Then API with the MDD, that is the maximum daily dose of greater than 2 grams per day. In that case, we have different threshold limits. Here we could compare it. So here, if it is the greater than equals to 0.03%, then for identification we have 0.05%, and qualification we have greater than or equal to 0.05%. So two regulatory important concept that we have to understand here: specified impurities and unspecified impurities. Specified impurities are those which are identified, named, and has the acceptance criteria. While on the other hand, we have unspecified impurities, which are any impurities detected above the reporting threshold, uh, which will be called as an unspecified. So here the name itself is showing these are the unknown impurities. That's why these are called as unspecified impurities, because these are not identified name or they do not have any acceptance criteria, or these are detected above the threshold, above the reporting threshold. They have the acceptance criteria, but these are unknown and which are detected above the reporting threshold. Next one, we have the qualification of impurities. An impurity is considered qualified if present in toxicology studies, supported by the published or safety data, or justified by the structural activity relationship. So impurity will be considered as qualified if we do the toxicological studies, or it already has some published safety data, or we have identified or justified the SAR. And if not qualified, additional toxicological studies may be required. Then we have how this ICH-Q3A reflect in CTD, that is CMC. So first, in Module 3 sections, obviously if you could see here, they have only given this module yes 32S and not the 32P, because Q3A is regarding the APIs, drug substance, and drug substance goes into our 32S section. That's why they have not included the 32P, because for 32P we have Q3B. So which section will get impacted? First one will be obviously our impurity section, which is the 32S32. Then specification, which is 32S41. Justification of specification, which is the 32S45. And stability regarding the your API, which is 32S7. And obviously for the product, it is 32P8, but it won't be covered in 32 Q3A. Regulators expect the clear impurity profile, justification on limits, and alignment with Q3A thresholds, obviously. Then common regulatory deficiencies which are seen by the FDA or EMAs, like we have missing impurity qualification rationale, or we have if the qualification rationale is missing, then this is the deficiency. Inadequate identification of impurity above threshold. So if the identification or inadequate identification of impurities, that will be also considered as deficiency. Then poor linkage between process impurity and control strategy. If there is a poor linkage between the process impurity and control strategy, if the by following that process, if the impurities are coming, but the control strategy is not, we could say, the justifiable or not enough to control the that impurities properly, then that will be also considered as a deficiency. Then we have lack of justification for unspecified impurity limit. If we do not provide any proper justification for the unspecified impurity limit, then it will be also considered as a deficiency, which leads to the RTR or RTF. Next, we have some real world example. Let's take an example. We have any unknown impurity which is at 0.18%. Obviously, if it is unknown and it has and percentage wise is also high, which is greater than 0.05% or 0.01%. So we have to identify it and qualify it. Both is required because it's maximum daily dose, which is less than equals to the 2 grams per day. So if the genotoxic risk suspected, then evaluate under the ICH M7 obviously. For genotoxicity, we have M7. Moving on to the threshold part, which we have already discussed. So you have to remember this table. This from the official website of ICH. You can see it there. Then definition, some definition like reporting, is you must record the impurity in your batch analysis and provide it to the regulators. So you have to record this impurity and it's in your batch analysis. Then identification, like you must provide the chemical structure like NMR or MS. In qualification, you must provide the safety data like toxicology data to prove the level is safe for human consumption. Then we have reporting and listing in specification. When submitting a dossier, you must list specific impurities in your drug substance uh, specification, like specified identification impurities, named impurities with specific limit. You must list the specific impurities in your drug substance specification. Specific unidentified impurities. These are the impurities that are not structurally known but are consistently present, like referred by the RRT, relative retention time. Unspecified impurities, a general limit, usually not more than the identification threshold for any unknown peak. Then we have total impurities, the sum of all impurities above the reporting threshold, that is total impurity. Moving on to the regulatory affairs and CMC perspective, from the CMC viewpoint, Q3A is roadmap for the CTD Module 3DS32. A key requirement for filing, that is mass balance, we have also discussed in previous session. Then we have the impurity profile comparison. You must compare the impurity profile for your commercial process batches with the batches used in clinical trial and toxicological studies. If the commercial batch has the impurity at the 0.12%, but the toxicological has the only had the of 0.04%, then this impurity is not qualified and you may face the regulatory hold. Because as mentioned in first line, you must compare the impurity profile of commercial batch, which was at 0.12%, with the batches used for clinical trials or toxicological studies. Then we have analytical method sensitivity. Your HPLC method must have limit of quantification that is at or below the reporting threshold. So this simply means your method should be able to quantify your impurity that should be that much sensible. If your method isn't sensitive enough, the regulators will reject your impurity data. Then we have rounding rounding rule, which is ICH-Q3A, has a specific rule for rounding. Results should be reported to the same number of decimal places at threshold. Example, if limit is 0.015%, results of 0.154% is 0.015%, but 0.155% round up to the 0.16% and fails. So if you see, just by increase in a digit of single, you could say the third digit, it it fails because the rule says if it is 5-4, then you only have to report. If it is going beyond 5 or beyond 5, then it will round up as a like next one. So in this case, it will be 0.16. What regulators looks for in module 32, a summary of actual and potential impurities. Then discussion on why the certain impurities are not present. Like impurity X is purged during the crystallization step. A rationale for the acceptance criteria, like explaining why you choose a specific limit for impurity based on the batch data or toxicology qualification. So this all for today in Q3A. In upcoming session, we'll discuss about the Q3B, C, and D, all of those. Thank you so much.